Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Clovis City Council meeting of September 18th. Appreciate you all being here tonight. I will call this meeting to order, and I will invite our clerk to take, oops, no, I won't do that. Oh, maybe I will. No, I don't know. We'll have a flag salute led by Councilmember Bessinger first.
Okay. Please join me in saluting the flag of our republic. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
Now I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Baskel is absent. Councilmember Bessinger.
Here.
Councilmember Monudwa.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
And Mayor Ashbeck.
I'm here. First up tonight under presentations and proclamations is the most delicious presentation and proclamation we've done in a long time, and that is an update on the Clovis Culinary Center activity. How did you get such a great job, Sean, to be in charge of the best tasting project in the city of Clovis?
I just wanted to stand up here for about 10 minutes and tell you thank you for letting me work on that.
Of course. You are welcome.
No, it is a fun project. So this is, it's been a little over a year since the last update for Clovis Culinary Center. And we've had, this was a milestone year, as most of you know. This is the 5-year anniversary of opening Clovis Culinary Center. And in that time, we have assisted about 100 businesses getting started. And right now there are 77 that are still using the kitchen and, you know, the facilities and the services. And each one of those businesses has about an average of about 3.5 employees each. And so it's a lot of fun to watch these businesses start and these people go to work. From this little incubator that I don't know how we came up with this idea, Andy. But it is a lot of fun. It's a good project. So this year alone, we had some real good success stories. Dad's Cookies, who was here last year, has grown into not just one brick and mortar, but two, one here and one Lemoore. And last week he announced that he was accepted. His cookies, at least, were accepted as the official cookie of the Fresno State Bulldogs.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, this is really, really neat.
That's awesome.
And there is a kind of another little fun result there too. He just outgrew both his brick and mortar, so he has to also move back into the kitchen, for a while to keep producing enough cookies to serve all the hungry Bulldog fans. Also, some of you may remember Ozzie Lewis. She had the grazing table events. She made those beautiful charcuterie boards. She has moved into her own deli. Unfortunately, it's not in Clovis. It's just in North Fresno, but she is still around. And of course, in addition to the traditional entrepreneurial members that we have a number of nonprofit organizations that we have started working with. One is the St. Francis Homeless Project, which I think most of you are familiar with. It's the group that deal with recently incarcerated ladies, many homeless ladies, and they're teaching them job skills through baking dog treats. And so they make those at the kitchen. One great thing, I am so sorry, there's a really neat thing that happened less than a year, so almost a year, in October, we hired Chris Marshall as our executive director, and then our lives changed, right? And so I'll bring her up in just a moment, but she really has made a difference in this community, in the not just Clovis Culinary Center, but the community. She has partnered with Habitat for Humanity, with Sanger Police Foundation, with the SBDC, a number of organizations that keeps everyone very, very busy. And I'm going to go ahead and ask you to come on up and say hi. Would you mind?
Hello. Okay.
So October, I think you started, right?
It was actually September 19th, tomorrow.
And so she's got her first Clovis Fest coming up.
Yes.
So big booth out there.
Please, lots of thoughts and prayers.
And then also I brought in and would like to introduce, we kind of had a light introduction in the in the lobby at City Hall there. But we do have 3 of our entrepreneurs, and I just want to introduce, I'm not going to ask them to give a speech or anything. They might not be comfortable. I don't want to put them on the spot, but Miguel and Lisa from Miguel Salsas.
Visual aid? I'll do your visual aid, except I ate your cookie, so I can't really show your cookies. Visual salsa? And
also Deer Creek Homestead, Ashley Jensen. So she actually grows her own vanilla, which I didn't know was possible. I said that a million times tonight. Do you want to say a few words?
Wow.
So how far into it are you? 2 years. Okay, just a few more years. It's exciting. It was delicious.
Thank you.
Okay, and also we have St. Goods, which makes the very unique bakery items. Nancy and Susie.
I would hold up your cookie, but I ate it.
And so they make it's a cake in a jar, right? A see-through jar, which is just a gorgeous presentation, for that stuff. And there are all 3 of these groups too are just a lot of fun to have in the kitchen. But that's it, short and simple. But yeah, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer. And then of course we have a whole bunch of people here that might be able to answer the stuff I can't.
Questions or comments for Sean?
Sean, thank you for always inviting us to sometimes the open house and those events. Always delicious, as Mayor says. And, Susie, great to see you. I know that we were young youth members of the same church, and to see you here as an entrepreneur, excellent, exciting. And so all the best, not just to you, but to all the other entrepreneurs. Sean, are we keeping data of all these successes and for example, just if they ask how many women, we can go spit it off right off the top of the...
We have detailed information on all levels for every single one of the business owners as well as their employees.
Excellent. And how is the sponsorship? Is it still just as robust as when we first started with different businesses in the community?
So a lot of things changed during the pandemic. It was kind of a blessing and a curse for Clovis Culinary Center. Sponsorships kind of went away, but more people were needing and wanting to start businesses because they didn't have jobs anymore, and so kind of saw it from both sides during that time. They're starting maybe to come back a little bit, but it's not like pre-pandemic.
Okay. And then just an idea, maybe an alumni, kind of funding mechanism because of all those success stories too.
We dream of that.
Yeah, no. Excellent. And congratulations on coming in. So all the best to you.
I appreciate you guys so much for the opportunity. I appreciate you guys for coming out and really showing up for the Clovis Culinary Center always. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, there might be more. Drew or Diane, any comments?
It's delicious. No, I just want to say that I'm grateful for the opportunity to really hear more, because this is my first chance to really hear about what you guys are doing there, and just the concept of kind of that business incubator and that opportunity to help people have a successful launch to these things. I'm sure our friends out there have plenty of stories to tell about just how important the support is, but then again, just also the facilities and the ability to get started and launch something successfully. So kudos to every individual who's worked on it, to all the people who have come and started their businesses there, and to the staff and city people who had that vision to provide that kind of an opportunity for entrepreneurship. I mean, small businesses are the backbone of Clovis, and so it's only fitting that we would have that kind of an opportunity here. So I'm super excited to have heard more about it, and look forward to sharing even more about it with the community.
Thank you.
And I'll just chime in a couple of things. I mentioned to Miguel at this year's Mayor's Breakfast, we highlighted the Culinary Center, and I hope next year I'd like to see salsa and vanilla and cookies. So I think the more showcasing we can do at the Culinary Center, the better. So I want to thank Rebecca and Carrie for making that possible this year. I thought that was really great. And because I'm never satisfied, my next question is, when's the next incubator, and how can this one be bigger? So I do think it's such a great concept, and kind of along Vong's idea of alumni, to tell the story of the Clovis Culinary Center. We were laughing with Miguel and Lisa about, well, there might be a storefront in Fresno or whatever. He said the mayor of Fresno, but I said I was so much nicer, so I was trying to, like, talk him into it. But we'll take credit. Like what's the map of the Clovis Culinary Center? The deli in Northeast Fresno or whatever. So I just think we need to continue to tell the story about the power of an idea, and I don't know, under circumstances, maybe I need a job, maybe I didn't need a job, maybe I just love making vanilla. I mean, however you come to this, I think it's such a great story for Clovis. So I just think it's excellent. And then I also, to give kudos to Chris, I had a chance to talk to the folks at CASA, and the Culinary Center did some nice work with foster kids, giving them a place to learn how to cook. Right. And I think, you know, their foster kids have so many needs, and one of them that we all probably forget is they don't often learn how to take care of themselves because they won't always be a foster kid. So that is awesome. So that was, and they raved about Chris, and I was like, I just can't wait to meet her, and then she just appeared. So anyway, thank you for doing what you do in the community, because I think that's also added value. So anyway, really excellent.
I really appreciate your support, all of your support.
You bet, you bet. Thank you for being here, and thanks to our entrepreneurs back there. I think if you can make a dinner out of salsa, cookies, and vanilla, we just did. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Sean. So fun. All right. Next up on our agenda are public comments. This is an opportunity for anyone to address this council on items that are not on our agenda, but that are within our jurisdiction. And we'd ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, and I don't know that we have a timer yet. Do we have a timer going on anywhere? Because we're going to have a timer now. Okay, somebody help me out. 5 minutes. So, we don't. Not yet. Stay with us, though. You never know. But welcome, and if you'd state your name and address, or at least your name, that would be great. Thanks. Whoop, you got to turn the little, thank you. Good job.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
My name is Cindy Pimbino. I'm a homeless outreach worker in Fresno and Clovis occasionally. I'm with Christ Helping Hands. I am the coordinator, and I'm with Fresno Church. First, I want to congratulate my fellow advocate, Des Martinez, for addressing the housing, affordable housing here in Clovis. I'm very pleased to work alongside of her. And I'm real pleased to see that affordable housing is here in Clovis. Me being a disabled senior, and I am on housing myself in Fresno, it's a huge blessing to my income and my budget and my bills. I would never make it without it. And I do have family in Clovis, and I'm really pleased to see that you have acknowledged your need. So let the building begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate that. Next, please. State your name, please.
Hi, Des Martinez.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, thanks. In December 2022, Butterfly Gardens was built to be affordable housing here in Clovis, California. Unfortunately, that is not what it has been opened to be. It's an apartment complex that only allows people with severe mental illness to be residents. Is it affordable? Yes. Sorry. Is it affordable? Yes, because they're on a housing voucher. But is it affordable for housing for all? No. Even myself being low income, I still cannot afford to come to Clovis, California, because the only affordable housing that you've ever built in Clovis, California is only for people that go through the Department of Behavioral Health with the county. This is leaving hundreds of people without a unit of their own. In June of 2023, there was a media report about the amount of police calls that it came in from Butterfly Gardens. This made it sound as if affordable housing was the problem. I'm here to tell you that affordable housing is not the problem. I hope you guys are not going to try to use this as a way to persuade the residents of Clovis not to build the 4,400 units of affordable housing that will be coming. With over 200 calls in a 6-month period is a lot to go to one building. I agree. I think this is where the management company should have explained to you what kind of individuals that they are only going to allow there. I think it's very important that all of you talk to your community and explain to them what kind of apartment complex Butterfly Gardens is. It's not the fault of the residents. They have some sort of learning disabilities. You have to in order to get in there. especially when the management company knew it was going to be specifically for a residential apartment complex for people with severe mental illness, people that go through the Department of Behavioral Health through the Fresno County. What you need over there is more case management, counselors, activities, staff, continuously outreaching to all their residents, informing them of the correct people to contact if it's not an emergency. It's that simple. So before we get the other 4,400 affordable units here, please explain to your community and your residents what they're really for, because that's only for people with severe mental illness. And don't make it sound like affordable housing is bad. It's not. As you see, you have people like Miss Cindy that need places because they're on fixed income. Thank you.
Thanks. And just a brief comment, you can be assured that we knew it was supportive housing and it was for people with mental illness and homeless, recently unhoused. So we were very well aware and we were very clear about that. So we are not mixing up the two. So I agree with you on that point, but just for the record, supportive housing was for people with serious mental illness and coming off the street, and that was our intent. So, but we understand it's not what you're describing, so we'll agree on that, but just we don't mix them up. We are very clear that they're different, so don't worry about that. Mr. Gibson, welcome.
Hello again.
Hello.
I'm Malcolm Gibson, 2776 Pontiac Avenue. I, too, had intended to address the affordable housing issue tonight. However, I feel compelled to comment on the letter sent on Clovis of City of Clovis letterhead to the Fresno County Board of Supervisors. To be clear, I do not object to Councilmember Diane Pierce sending a letter. I support her First Amendment right to comment on this or any other issue of her choosing, and I would walk shoulder to shoulder with her in support of the right to do so, as a wife, as a mother, as a citizen, even when I disagree with what she has to say, as I do on this case. As some of you may know, I have spent most of my career as a journalist and writer under the umbrella of the First Amendment. My concern is that I do not want government or any government official trying to undermine that. But by writing under the aegis of the City of Clovis, by using its letterhead, she has done just that. As to the content of the letter, she says she is not trying to ban any book, but that's not accurate because the result is the same. She wants to restrict its access. She offers no suggestion other than for the Board of Supervisors to find, and I quote, a reasonable solution. What, create a special room with a sign that says books that numerous people object to, and for access you are directed to see someone to provide a hidden key for entry. Please, the reasonable solution is simple. Let parents decide. Does anyone here want government or any government official to determine your parenting? I bet not. She writes, too, that those, quote, numerous people, constituents, I presume, have raised this concern, which is what I also presume prompted her to write the letter under her council member title rather than as a citizen. Just how many is numerous, by the way. It doesn't really matter. In my view, a city council member, once elected, particularly given that Clovis does not have districts, represents all of Clovis, not just those who voted for you or grabbed your attention. Numerous does not represent me. Listen, numerous people continue to this day to object Huckleberry Finn and have been successful in removing it from library bookshelves. That's happened to many other books too. And this, I grew up when rock and roll first emerged, and well more than numerous, likely millions, urged the burning of records and wanted government to ban the airways and record shops of the likes of Little Richard and, yes, Elvis. I didn't want that. Would you have? In her letter, she also underscores that it's important, quote, to protect the innocence of our kids in what has become hypersexualized society. Absolutely agree, but it's the same argument used back then when Little Richard and Elvis. Where do you draw the line? As I've said before, do not let government decide such issues. Let the public and let parents. So write your letter, please, with my encouragement, but as a citizen, not as a government official representing all of Clovis, and that, by the way, includes me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Any other public comment in the chambers? Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Kaya Roddenberry. My children and grandchildren have attended Clovis schools. But now my husband and I decided we want to move to Clovis because of the conservative values, the great police force. We feel safe here, and we feel there's freedom. 2 weeks ago, I decided, somebody said, well, come, join us at the city council meeting. So I came here, and after 3 hours of listening to advocates of the LGBTQ lifestyle, I went home in a state of shock. I thought, my gosh, this is amazing. I just don't know enough about it. The community, the LGBT community, seems that we should affirm their lifestyle. One speaker said that she needs the LGBTQ display in the city library because it makes her feel normal. Is that what we're about? Whether it is pornographic, inappropriate books in the children's section of the library, it's wrong. Yes, parents can decide, but a lot of parents take their kids to the library, drop them off, and they are in there. They don't go in and look at every book. So they're assuming that we have enough common sense to put the books in the right place. So I decided to do some research on, I'll take one letter, the transgender. There's lots of information out there. There's books, there's movies, there's podcasts, there's all kinds of things. I found one book that I thought was rather interesting. It's called The Trans Life Survivors. It's a book written by a person who lived 8 years as a woman. She had transgendered to a woman from a man, and then he realized what a mistake it was, and he went back. So this book is about 30 different people who made somewhat the same mistake. Someone talked them into, you can change your sex. And they did or they didn't, they thought they were. They took hormone therapy and they took surgery. And they realized soon after that that this was a huge mistake of their life. So what I'm feeling is that you can't change your sex. It's in your DNA. And I've been very tolerant. I have a niece that's a lesbian, but they have drawn the line and they've stepped over it because they're going after our kids. They're trying to tell children that they can change their sex. I hear about it because I have kids. I know kids in the schools. I hear about it. They're indoctrinating our children to want them to take the sex hormones, to mutilate their bodies. And to hurt a child is the epitome of evil. Thank you so much, Diane. I actually came here to thank you for having the courage and the strength to stand up for our children and do what's right. It takes a great politician to do that, because it's very rare. We must warn people about this horrible agenda. And I encourage you to do your own research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Roddenberry. Mr. Roth?
Good evening, David Rowell, resident of Clovis since 1999. 91. I just have to say, with respect to the most recent comments, I've been here for several of these meetings, and I've heard most of the speakers. Nobody is encouraging anybody to be gay Nobody is encouraging anybody or recruiting anybody to change their sex. These statements are simply false. What the speakers said was, quit picking on us, quit discriminating against us, quit telling us that we don't count, that we can't express ourselves, that we can't be proud of who we are. Nobody's recruiting anybody. Nobody's encouraging anybody. Nobody's saying, get this surgery, it'll be good for you. They're saying, let people do what they feel they must do, and let us do it on our own without interference from government. That's all they're asking for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Anyone else in the council chambers tonight? Anyone online?
Yes, we have one, Sergio Romo. Sergio, I've requested for you to unmute your mic. Please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, council members. Thank you, Carrie, for taking me online like this and it's on such short notice. My name's Sergio Romo. I'm a resident of Clovis, born and raised in the Valley. And I'm also an owner-operator of a commercial vehicle, a truck, have been so for the last 20 years. So I'm here tonight to kind of bring up the issue of the parking that's been kind of contentious over the last few years. And it seems to have come to a head recently. That is ordinance number 4.5.1014. Now, I'm aware of the fact that you all cannot act upon any issue unless it is formally put on the agenda. So I won't go into too much detail tonight, unless, of course, council members, have questions or would like to. But it's my intention to bring this before the council, put it on the agenda, and formally request that you would either rescind this ordinance or amend it, because it's my contention, my view, that we as business owners, myself being here, being in the city, parking without issue for the last 20 years before this ordinance was put into effect in 2019. We had no problem. We know where to park, certain areas. There's obviously already ordinances and laws on the book pertaining to parking commercial vehicles, for example, in residential areas where I agree completely, they shouldn't be, and we don't want them there. It affects the aesthetics of the area and so forth. But I feel that this was kind of a short-sighted ordinance, kind of broad brush stroke, if you will. I spoke to Andy Hausler, who was the original author of it back in 2018. He proposed it and was ratified or agreed upon by the council and enacted in January of 2019. And like I said, up until that point, we had been parking in a specific area. I'm specifically talking about where I park, which is kind of over by Clovis Glass. It's First Street between Toll House and Sunnyside. It's an industrial area. It's a commercial area. Like I said, Clovis Glass is one of the tenants. There's tow lots, wrecking yards, the kind of area you would expect to see a commercial vehicle parked. And like I said, before this was enacted, we had zero issues, zero complaints. We weren't visible, unless you drove down that street, you didn't see us, you didn't know we existed. That's kind of how we liked it. And until recently, when this happened, in which now it's become an issue. And just for example, just recently in the last 2 weeks, I've received 3 tickets being parked there. They're $108 each, and during these difficult times, as I'm sure everybody there can attest to, the times are very hard right now, especially for me, a one truck operation out here. With the cost of everything as exorbitant as it is, it's very difficult to get by. So I just would like to put it out there for right now. I know, like I said, you guys can't act upon it, but I was just hoping that perhaps there was a way that the council could put like a temporary pause on the enforcement of this, take like a 30-day pause, while I'm able to put something more cohesive, more concise, a presentation together and come before y'all there to give, some more detail, maybe some more solutions and amendments to this, because I agree it's become an issue as the city has grown. But yeah, I hope to do that by next council meetings. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Romo, have you recently been in touch with Andy? He is here tonight. Have you been in touch with him recently about this issue?
I have not. I've spoken to Dave, and forgive me, I can't spell, Rosno. He's over at the police department. I'm not sure if he's a corporal. Rosno, correct.
Yeah.
He's been my contact point. I've been dealing with Dave. I know last time we spoke, he said that they were going to go on a permit basis, according to the property owners, and, there's an idea that he had. I spoke to him about, 2 weeks ago, I believe, no more than 2 weeks ago. And he said that idea that wasn't gonna happen. And so that's when the enforcement started in full force. Like I said, I've gotten 3 tickets since the last time I spoke to him. I don't know if it's basically what that does, what this law says is the 4 hours, no commercial vehicles for 4 hours in a 24-hour period. It's an impossibility for me as an owner operator, because I fall under the guidelines of the Federal Department of Transportation hours of service, which dictate how my hours are to be used and when I can clock on and clock off. So every 4 hours for me to go out there, move my truck is not feasible. That's number one. And these obviously these hours of service that the Department of Transportation has in place is for safety. They want me to have my 10 hours off so I can rest and re-engage and go back out into the world having rested up. It's basically safety issues, so I'm sure you can imagine. So it was kind of like, I understand the Andy's problem was back then was a development that was going on behind the Clovis Chrysler out there, the new development that was happening. There was issues with trucks parking over there. And so this was kind of offered up as a solution to the problem, but I'm afraid it was very short-sighted. Didn't take us into consideration in other areas where there were no issues. And so now it's become an issue. So.
Okay, thank you for those comments. So maybe what I'll do, Andy, if you can, maybe you're aware of this, but maybe you can connect with Corporal Rosno and then reach back out to Mr. Romo. And if we need to re-look at the ordinance or put some different parameters, because behind Chrysler is one thing, Clovis Glass is another location, so I'm not quite sure. But Mr. Romo, Andy is here, and he will connect with the corporal, and then one of them will reach back out to you, and then if there's a way we can look at that ordinance again, we can bring it back if the council so chooses. How's that? Does that work?
That's absolutely amazing. I appreciate any help we can get. Andy's been helpful in the past, so has Dave. Yeah, I look forward to that. Like I said, I want resolution to this, just like anyone else. I don't want a blight. I don't take my truck home. I don't park it in front of my house. My neighbors don't even know what I do because we found a perfect spot, where it's out of the way. Nobody sees it.
I'm sure your neighbors appreciate that for not parking in your neighborhood. So we appreciate that.
Yes.
Hey, thank you for the comments tonight. We appreciate it. And somebody from either Andy or Corporal Rosno will be in touch with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Cal. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Yes. We have Linda Hebert. Linda, I've unmuted your mic. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for your time. I just want to make a point on the woman that was commenting. And what I just really want to, the point is, and this almost seems like a trigger word of, coming to Clovis because it's conservative. And there's an issue with that word because it gets to the point where we're dividing ourselves. And I've had personally, and I've had personal experience, friends, getting to know people that have these issues, or should I say life happens, and they have a whole new understanding. And it's not people who have whatever the group is. I have a real a feeling that until you're in that situation, you have no idea. So when you put that word, that it just assumes that others who are LGBTQ are not conservative. What does that word mean? They care about their kids just as much as you do. They may not be in your church, your group, but I really stress that reaching out and getting to know someone and understanding that we have more in common than we do have against is such an eye-opener, and it broadens your world. So I just bring that up, that word. I've seen it personally, that, you know, someone won't even talk to you unless you have that label of conservative. And there's so much more. So I just ask that we get to know, reach out and get to know our Clovis neighbors. And that's it. I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Linda. Anyone else? Carrie?
No.
Last call for the chambers here.
Can I say
Yeah,
something?
Of course.
I listened to the speakers talking about not wanting government interfering with parents. But we have the Attorney General of this state suing school districts because they want to notify the parents that their child is having gender confusion issues. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, this is wrong, but this is okay. It's government interference, and I don't think we should sanction any of it. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I could say so many things. Okay, if you talk for 4 minutes.
I can do it in less, I promise.
I'm kidding. Everyone else got 5, but you only get 4. I want to go on the record up front saying you only get 4.
I just want to state one thing very, very simply, is that government...
Would you tell us your name?
Yes, Mayor. My name is Sean Burdine, but the whole purpose of government is to protect the interests of the people and act on behalf of the interests of the people, whatever that people may be. And that differs depending on, you know, are we talking the federal level, are we talking at the school board, are we talking at a very specific municipality or water district? To me, the whole purpose of having a republic is that you have elected representatives that were chosen by the people of that district. Those individuals are trusted to act on behalf of the will of those people. Government is an extension of the will of those people.
Thanks, Sean. Anyone else? And I'll just say, because I can't resist, we spent 38 minutes and we have not made Clovis a better place, and we've simply highlighted the division. And so that, to me, may we all remember we are here to build community, and we all live here together. So I think that's just that is what continues. And where I thought you were going to go is the Attorney General was here, and I am mortified that in the discussion of hate, this council was an example. And that, to me, is horrifying. That is not who we are, and we were an example of hate in Fresno County. And that, to me, is really, it's so far from your original Facebook post. That was not your intention, but that's where we are today. So I think we need to just get back to the business of Clovis. I've never been so happy to talk about parking in my whole life. Like parking, we can do parking. So I just think we need to be careful that we're trying to build a place where all are welcome here. Not all are judged, but all are welcome, and that's really our job. So it's been a challenging 3 months, for sure.
The Attorney General said that?
No, someone offered examples of hate in this community, and someone offered the close. But don't dismiss them. We cannot dismiss them. We were an example of hate. That's not who we are.
An inaccurate one.
But it's that as accurate as everybody else's point of view here. So I think we have to be careful to even be in that sentence. To me, is we need to be very careful. So anyway, let's move on to parking. I like parking. Consent calendar. Oh no, ordinances and resolutions. With respect to the approval of resolutions and ordinances, the reading of the title shall be deemed a motion to waive a reading of the complete resolution. And unless there's a request by a council member that the resolution or ordinance be read in full, further reading of the resolution or ordinance shall be deemed waived by unanimous consent of the council. Consent calendar, these are items that are routine in nature. They're acted on with one vote and considered one item unless someone wishes to pull an item off the consent calendar. Any of those to pull? Anyone in the audience wishing to pull any of the consent items? Seeing none, bring it back to the council.
Motion to approve consent calendar item 2 through 8.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve items 2 through 8. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under public hearings tonight, just a couple. The first is to consider the approval of the adoption of the City of Clovis 2022-2023 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation. Of course, it has an acronym, CAPER, for expenditure of Community Development Block Grant Funds. You do not look like Claudia. I'm very smart.
Hi, Mayor,
I do
members of
not
the council.
think you are Claudia.
Claudia Cesaris, who's our Affordable Housing Management Analyst, is unexpectedly out due to an illness, so I'll be taking her place. I do want to acknowledge the hard work that she put into this report and the work that she does every day serving our community, administering these grants and funds. There will be a lot of acronyms here, so I'm going to go slow because a lot of them are new to many people, including the public that may be hearing them for the first time. So I'll make sure that we're covering this as quickly as possible, but also taking the time to explain the acronyms, because there are a lot of them. Just in way of introduction, my name is Chad McCollum. I'm the Economic Development, Housing, and Communications Director for the City of Clovis. One of the responsibilities of the Housing Division is to oversee the administration of the city's Community Development Block Grant. That grant is also referred to as CDBG, second acronym. Tonight is a public hearing where we're presenting the performance report of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, funded by CDBG programs for the fiscal year 22-23. That formal report is called the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, or CAPER. So, just to kind of go through that alphabet soup of acronyms one more time, CAPER, Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, so that's the report that we're asking to be approved tonight. CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, is the grants that fund many of the programs that we'll be talking about tonight. And then HUD is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. They dictate how this program is to be administered, and they do have some procedural steps that we need to follow tonight, and that's what we'll do right here with this slide. So we're required to use HUD-mandated formats for the report that is in your staff report. The report is prepared in August and in time to ensure that the public has a 15-day public review period before tonight's meeting. The CAPER was also noticed in Spanish and English in the Fresno Bee, the Business Journal, the city's website, and the city's social media accounts. The final step for the CAPER is to hold this public meeting, accept any public comments, provide opportunity for the council to review and adopt the CAPER, and then HUD requires the submission of the CAPER by the 30th of this month. A lot of acronyms, a lot of dates. We're now going to get into the meat of it. So the next couple slides identify several projects that were completed during the reporting period. We did complete repairs on 7 homes using the home repair grants. Repairs on 15 additional homes are underway. We also had an area-based policing program that provided funding for neighborhood services. City staff completed reconstruction of the Gettysburg-Norwich Alley, which is in the southwest corner of Gettysburg and Peach. That project repaired over 1,000 linear feet of alley, which is awesome. That's what we need to see in some parts of our city. And then, as you heard earlier, the community kitchen is supported by these grants. In total, 5 entrepreneurs who met the low-income requirements were able to get funding and allowed them to utilize the use of the kitchen. A lot of different projects that are underway in 22 and 23, and were also completed. One item I'd want to direct your attention to is the Gould Canal project, which has received $134,000 in CDBG funds. That project will provide much-needed recreational trails along canal banks starting in the older parts of the city. Engineers from the Public Utilities Department have been designing this project, and it's scheduled to go out to bid in the next couple months. This table provides the city's progress report toward meeting our 5-year goals. We're well underway. There's lots of numbers, and I would encourage you to take a look at it and direct any questions to myself or Claudia. It can be a little complicated, but the bottom line is we are on track to meet our 5-year goal. I do want to talk quickly about the CDBG awards by year. You'll see that in the last 4 years, our funding has gone down by approximately $100,000. There's lots of reasons for that, but the end result is we need to be very careful about the funds that we do have because it's less than we had in the past, and this is while costs of everything, including labor and construction, has gone up. wanted to just dive into kind of some stuff that might be more interesting than the acronyms and the numbers, and these are the results. So this is work that took place at the home of an elderly resident, lives in a mobile home. Home rehabilitation grants take care of safety and health issues. This one allowed us to put in some steps and railing that were safe on two sides of the deck that you see there, and we also were able to take care of some of the windows that were experiencing some issues. We do take care of lots of windows. They are expensive for anyone who's had to repair windows. So in mobile homes or older homes, you'll see that condensation builds up. This creates mold that causes health and safety issues. So we'll be able to go in and take care of that. And on the far right, you see the example of the windows that are no longer experiencing the damage and are much safer for our low income, and in this case, elderly residents. This project, much larger in scope, also funded by CDBG, but also the Cal Home Program loan. You'll see that not only were the weeds quite high, we had fencing issues, we also had window issues, and we were able to go in. Also, the fascia board was rotted out. There were no rain gutters. So we were able to take care of the problem and prevent future damage by getting the funding put where it needed to be, and that was construction of some of the rain gutters and making sure that this home would be safe and secure for years to come. This slide shows a map for the location of the Gettysburg-Norwich Alley, which is behind several multifamily homes. It's one of the alleys that included construction of a valley gutter to alleviate flooding and reconstruction of the alley all the way from Gettysburg toward Peach. Area-based policing, we've got projects that are reported. Someone might see in the front yard of a neighbor that's, they've seen garbage piling up. We're able to go in there and take care of the problem. And then the far right, we go out into the community. We connect with families that are renters and homeowners. You'll see Officer Vasquez there. He happens to be in the audience today, coincidentally. So we thank you for your work and your service, sir. So in conclusion, staff recommends adoption of the 22-23 CAPER, and that completes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chad. And Claudia?
Who may be listening.
Yeah, absentia, yeah. Questions for Chad? Drew?
More of a comment. The alley reconstructions are a very important element of this, because if you looked at the picture, the before picture on Norwich and Gettysburg, I spent a lot of time over in that area as a police officer, and when an alley looks like that on the left, people are more likely to pull their pickup truck and just pop furniture off into the street, because if they don't care about it, we don't care about it. And I think when we get this taken care of, it will encourage investment for the folks who, that's their fence. Hopefully they're going to want to invest in their property. That's multifamily housing on the left part of that. I think there are 8 plexes, I think, if I remember correctly. So getting those people, the owners of those property, to invest in their property it's a win-win for all the citizens who live there. Hey, you did show one house that we did some work on that had high weeds in the back. How do we? I've dealt with people who were hoarders, and you can clean their house, and 3 months later, the junk will be back. How do we ensure that these people maintain this after it's fixed?
Code enforcement is the key. So if someone sees a problem in their neighborhood that is either the folks are unable to maintain it themselves or unwilling, we sort of can come out and speak with them. In this case, it was an elderly resident who had bigger problems than the weeds. But yeah, code enforcement is the key.
Yeah, and we always want to help the older folks. If we have an able-bodied person, I don't think we're doing much for them other than potentially writing them a ticket if they don't get together. That's all I have. Thank you.
Juan?
Chad, on page 41, I think page 6 of the report, page 41 total, maybe I may not know the specific definition of special needs, but Butterfly Gardens doesn't take special needs, it's only rehab? Or do they have certain special needs? Because its numbers are 0, and so I may have forgotten.
That project was in the previous reporting year. It would qualify for special needs housing. Also, it usually involves disabled individuals relative to mental capacities.
So maybe next year it'll show?
So it was a previous year as
Oh, it was already accounted for in the previous year?
Yeah, because when the project actually went into service.
Okay, got it. And then the next table down is for rental assistance. Does it have to be CBDG dollars before we can count it? Or do we also count it because of Housing Authority Section 8 vouchers?
So it has to be CDBG dollars for that particular table, so we can't double count what the Housing Authority does or another agency for federal reporting. But we will call it out in the narrative if we can, in the document.
Then on page 51, it sort of has a lot of outreach items listed. Why is that? We put not applicable, and maybe I may not understand the reporting. So can you explain why? Because it has assist residents, you know, for applications, for finding child care. I know we do these things, and we have help, but on top it already says not applicable, so I'm trying to understand. So we have a lot of those services.
That specifically refers to Section 3 employment requirements, which we are not subject to because of the types of projects and funding levels we receive. If we received higher levels of funding, then you would see that being populated.
Okay, so it's the type of funding we receive that we, even though we do it, it doesn't get reported.
Correct. Yeah, so the HUD system essentially doesn't allow us to enter data in those tables.
Okay. And then Good Canal is 90%, and so hopefully after the planning soon we'll see.
Depending on the weather, it'll begin as soon as possible. Yeah.
That is very exciting.
Yeah.
I think that we've been needing, Councilmember Bessinger has been, you know, a strong proponent of this as well, so we look forward to that. And with the code enforcement, I know we have that as a major part of this report. What can we do, or how can we, and the mayor has mentioned this before, with regards to the commercial centers, of them maintaining weeds and just the trash, and, you know, sometimes you drive by the Walmart there, you know, someone's not taking care of it. I know it's not us, but what can we do, or how can we ensure that the commercial properties are also having some...
So I appreciate my colleague Andy Hauser helping out tonight in Claudia's absence. He is over code enforcement, so he can probably handle this one as well.
Yeah. The more staff knows about issues, the more we can go out there and have us engage the property owners to hold them accountable. We've recently been mandating that commercial property owners file plans with us if they have any vacancies or substandard conditions, and that's been pretty effective, especially when paired with our economic development team and helping filling those vacancies. So that is really the key, is us having enough eyes on the street and enough bodies in place to go out there and affect the change we want to see happen. And sometimes it involves us filing liens, and council's engaged on those things to address those issues.
And I was just going to add that we're planning on bringing back to City Council on October 2nd an update on code enforcement. And the bottom line there is that we don't have enough bodies to do the code enforcement we want to do. But we'll talk more about that at the presentation on the 2nd of October.
And I'll second what Andy had to mention about the more we know about it. We, in the economic development team, spend a lot of time meeting with shopping center owners, both that live local and maybe even more often the ones that are outside our area who may not know the conditions. So if we're able to sit down with them with a kid glove and talk to them about the issue, oftentimes they want to take care of it just as bad as we do.
And in our education efforts, I think many times those who don't call as much don't know that they can also call on commercial centers because they're only reporting neighbors. But yet when they go to the Walmart, they see it, they kind of go, it must be the city's job. but yet they can also be stewards of those commercial centers where they visit the most. And if we can add that to you know, when you outreach to go, hey, let us know anything in the neighborhood. You know, if it's a commercial center, let us know so that we can get to the owner to make sure they're keeping it, you know, just as tidy as any other commercial center.
The more voices we have, the stronger case we have for code enforcement.
Yeah. Thank you.
I wanted, on the Gold Canal, I'm going back to that, I don't want to interrupt you. We've spent no money though. Are those funds for the construction? And they'll carry over into the next fiscal year, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
They're available, right now to go out to bid. I think they're doing some public workshops on that in the next few weeks. And then we'll be getting it out.
But we just didn't spend the money by June 30th, but that still will carry over for the construction?
Yes.
It's allocated for it.
Okay, all right. And then just to call out the kitchen funding in here, I think we saw it's a pretty good investment for $36,000 or whatever that number is. It's pretty small. So, anyway, thank you for that.
Yeah, it goes a long way.
Yeah, it definitely does go a long way. All right, anything else up here? Anyone in the audience wishing to comment on any item or anything in this acronym-filled this report, CDBG, I have dyslexia, but CDBG report, CAPER.
Yeah, that.
That thing, yes,
That thing.
you know, that same thing.
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Would you tell us your name, first part of your 5 minutes? Brent, come on.
Hello, my name is Brent Burdine.
My jokes are part of your 5 minutes, too.
Okay.
Just kidding.
I'm fine with that. I was curious on the distribution of funds. What was the mechanism for that? Was that, did people in the public or businesses submit requests to the city, or does the city have an inspector who goes out and finds problem areas, then writes a report?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, the first one is people do apply for the funds, and then if there are needs within the city, there's community investment projects that get recommended. But members of the public absolutely do apply for these funds.
Okay. And to follow up with that, is there an enrollment period during the year where if there's something in the community where either your own home or a business or an area near you that you could bring into the city's attention and apply for a community development loan or a grant?
So you can apply anytime for a health and safety home repair. Come by the city administration office. We also have our website. You can go on to the housing section, and you can also learn about other programs that we have that we just haven't had time to talk about tonight, including some COVID-related utility assistance and other projects.
Okay. And the third question. I understand that the funding, even though it's decreasing, was that funding coming from the state or was it raised by the city through taxes? And is it possible if the city came up with a fundraiser, could the city Clovis community get involved in a fundraising event?
And those funds are allotted to us, so they're not raised locally, and they're distributed using lots of metrics, including size and need.
They're state dollars, right?
Yeah, state dollars.
They're state funding.
That's federal funding for the record.
Oh, federal funding?
We also have Cal Home programs
Yeah.
and the COVID assistance, so it's a mix of them. But to Andy's point, the CDBG is federal.
So could we have a fundraiser? We sure could. But we, like Habitat for Humanity, I mean, there's other groups like that do some of the same work, but I don't think there's anything to preclude a city from trying to raise money for their own purposes. We used to have several faith-based groups that would come through here once a year. Can't think of the name of the big one.
World Changers.
And they would come in and stay in the Clovis East gym, and they would send these armies of kids across. It was super awesome, but the world is not that anymore. But those were also huge resources that.
I would imagine too. I assume this is going to be like either a needs-based or it's a competitive type of bidding. So only so many projects can be done per year.
Yeah, we stretch it as far as we can, but you can only allot so many programs because we have limited funds. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for your comments.
Oh, one last comment.
You have 2 more minutes.
Oh, great. The other thing is commenting on an earlier comment. It's great that we're able to communicate, and sometimes we disagree with each other, that's not a hate act. Sometimes, I got a lot of people that I love, and sometimes I disagree with them, but it's not an act of hate to disagree.
Totally agree. But if it's perceived as hate, it's hate. And if it's described as hate, it's hate. Just like we describe our perception, that was my point. We can say, oh, we don't hate here in Clovis, but if you believe that's the case, it's the case. So that was all my point. I mean, I agree with you. All of this conflict to me is not helpful, but I still like lots of the people here, so I agree with you. But
it's good that we were able to talk.
Yeah,
and
I
speak
think
with
it's
each other.
right.
We have to be able to communicate.
Totally agree.
Thank you.
Totally agree. Thanks, Brent. And you have one more minute. You can save it to the next meeting. No, I'm just kidding. We should have like coins, you could have like chips and you could collect them. It would be great. Thanks, Drew. We appreciate you being here, all of you, really, for your comments. Thanks. Government only works if people talk to us, right? So, all right. Anything else on the what's wrong with me? CDBG. Hi. Anybody, please say no because I'll have to say it one more time. All right. Anybody online, Carrie? All right. So I'll bring you back to the council for action.
Okay. I'll compared to Fresno getting over 11 million, and then we only get it, 600,000, 700,000. The work that your department and Claudia has done has been exceptional every single year. And so with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt the City of Clovis 2022-2023 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report for expenditure of the CDBG funds.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And there is one absence, and I neglected to mention that on the last vote. So it's 4 in favor, 0 against, and 1 absent. Thank you. Thank you, Chad. All right, item number 10, hold on. Some of us just can't scroll to item number 10. They have to flip to item number 10. Item number 10 is to consider items proposing to amend the existing density ranges for multifamily residential development in the General Plan and Development Code to correspond to the applicable density requirements specified for the city's regional housing needs allocation RENA sites inventory. City of Clovis is the applicant on this item, and there are two actions underneath this. One is GPA 2023-003, a request to amend the density range of the high-density residential land use designation to increase the maximum density from 25 to 30 units per acre. And the second item is an ordinance amendment, 2023-02, a request to amend the density range of the R3 multifamily high-density zone district to increase the maximum density from 25 to 30 units per acre, and to modify the maximum height for the R3 zone district from 35 feet to 45 feet to accommodate the higher density. And Dave, our city planner, is the presenter tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you noted, the proposed project this evening would increase the maximum density in the high-density general plan designation in the R3 zone district from 25 to 30 units an acre. As we've described, this is a project that would help to satisfy our RENA requirements for the 6th cycle housing element. And you may recall from our joint meeting between the council and the planning commission back in, I believe it was February, that this was a program that we had identified to help meet our requirements. As part of the density adjustments, we're proposing to increase the height in the existing R3 zone district from 35 to 45 feet to help accommodate that slightly higher density. There are no proposed changes to any designation of any parcel, so the changes that we're talking about this evening would apply to parcels that are already designated for high-density development. Council has lots of background on the housing element, so I'm not going to repeat most of this. We talked about this as being a tool for our RENA. The takeaway here is that for previous housing elements, the sites for low and very low income housing opportunities needed to allow 20 units per acre. For the 6th cycle, which is the process they're working on now, that requirement went up to allowing at least 30 units per acre. So these are the designations that currently apply to the city, and the ranges allow everywhere from low at as low as 2 units an acre up to very high at 43 units an acre. When we were required to have designations that allowed at least 20 units, we were able to use both the high and the very high density designations to satisfy those requirements. Now that we're looking at a requirement for a 30-unit minimum, all that we have available to us is that the very high density designation, which has a minimum density of 25 and a max density of 43. With just this in our toolkit, we have a more limited ability to help meet our RHNA requirements. We don't have as much flexibility to accommodate projects that might want to develop as multifamily, but not necessarily at that high density. As a result, staff is recommending that we make one change to the existing density ranges, and that's basically just in the high density and R3 districts, and the change would just increase the maximum from 25 to 30 units. This is a map, and it's a little bit difficult to see, but this is what I could produce with our system. This is the map of R3 zone parcels south of Shepherd Avenue. So these are the parcels that are slightly orange with kind of a dark gray boundary. This is every parcel that the computer will tell me in this area is zoned R3. The vast majority of the property here is already developed. The exception is that there's a little bit in the, let's just call it the bottom right-hand corner of this map in Loma Vista. The three parcels in that grouping, or three of those groups of parcels are undeveloped and are actually part of our RHNA inventory. Let's see if I can show you where those are. They're basically part of this group, and then this property here is actually part of the Home Place Master Plan that was approved in 2022. So within the area north of Shepherd Avenue, we're talking about the Heritage Grove area, an area that was pre-zoned by the council just a couple of months ago. There are a block of properties totaling about 80 acres that are zoned for, pre-zoned for R3 development, and those areas will become part of the city in the next few days, most likely next week.
Dave, just to be clear, those aren't the only zone parcels that are R3. Those are the only available R3 zone parcels, or which is it?
These are the only R3 zone parcels.
In the whole north of Shepherd area?
Yes. There's lots of mixed use designations, and there's some R4.
Okay.
But in terms of the actual R3 that's specifically affected by this proposal, this is it.
Okay, thanks.
So I can't remember if it came out when I specifically said totaled, there's about 100 acres of R3 that is yet to be developed and is included in our inventory. The total number is several times that, but again, most of that has been developed. With the density adjustment, I noted that we're proposing to increase the maximum height. The current limit is 35 feet and 2 stories, so both of those requirements apply. But additional height is allowed through the conditional use permit process all the way up to 60 feet. What we found in implementing the existing density, which is tops out at 25 units an acre, is that projects that are right around that density range already require 3 stories in order to fit and meet the requirements. We also know that we're required to have development standards that allow projects at the maximum density to be developed. So taken at the extreme, we couldn't allow a 30-unit maximum density but limit the height to 1 story, okay? So we have to have cohesive and consistent development standards that would allow development to occur at the high end. So the proposal to increase the height to 3 stories and 45 feet will bring consistency between the density and the development standards. We just talked with our development community back in August. There were no concerns or objections. There was some interest expressed, quite a bit of interest expressed in pursuing some additional modifications to our density ranges, but those were primarily focused on single-family districts, and we might allow some more flexibility there. So we've committed as a staff to looking at that, including but not limited to incorporating those kinds of changes into our next general plan update. Planning Commission considered this project at the August 24th meeting. The Commission had a really, I thought, thoughtful discussion about the proposal. There were some questions and some dialogue really focusing on 2 issues. One is whether there are any potential alternatives to this modification, and are there development standards that would help to reduce potential conflicts between lower density and higher density residential uses. So the answer to alternatives is that yes, there are alternatives, but effectively any alternative would require that instead of using the R3 district to meet our requirements, we have to use the R4 district. And the R4 district has both a higher density, up to 43 units, and a taller base height of 50 feet. So there aren't alternatives that would have a meaningful difference on questions about the relationships between low and high density, or that would somehow reduce any concerns, because all the alternatives would effectively be the same or more significant in terms of the development intensity. As to the question of whether there are development standards that would reduce conflicts, yes, the city does have objective development standards that are designed to reduce those conflicts, but we would not suggest that the development standards make conflicts go away. They just look to minimize those. There isn't a scenario in which a three-story multifamily project disappears when it's in proximity to single-family neighborhoods or lower density neighborhoods. Just height and the scale of those things tends to make them visible. That we do things like obscuring views from multi-stories down into lower density neighborhoods. You may recall also that we awarded a contract, rather the council approved the award of a contract to a consultant to look again at our development standards, and so we'll be doing that over the next several weeks, probably a handful of months, and at some point we'll bring back updated multifamily development standards. There was one community member in audience at the Planning Commission hearing. There was a specific question as to whether, as an alternative, we the city could create a new zone district rather than modifying the R3 district. The answer again is yes, but that just means that the acreage that is currently in the R3 district would have to be rezoned to this new district, and so any concerns, perceived concerns about conflicts or loss of privacy or what have you would simply apply to the new zone district, and there's no change, there's no benefit to doing that.
What would what would a new zone district do? Like higher density, or what are they looking for?
Yeah, I think the idea was, is there a benefit, or could there be a benefit of, instead of bumping up the max density in the R3 zone, we created hypothetically like an R3.5 zone with a higher density and a higher height, and we use that as our tool. But unless we have property that is zoned that, it doesn't do anything for us. So we're basically trading out one issue for another.
Thanks.
So after their consideration, the Planning Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed project to your council. We've identified really there are three supporting factors for this project. The proposed changes would help to align the general plan and development code densities with the applicable RENA requirements. They would, by doing so, allow additional properties to be included in our RENA inventory and help meet those requirements. And finally, it would help to create additional flexibility for the development of high-density multifamily projects on properties that are really already designated for high-density residential development. So as such, staff is recommending that the council adopt a resolution approving the general plan amendment and introducing the ordinance amending the development code as presented. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dave. Questions for staff? Drew?
Dave, that was a very good presentation. Sometimes the RENA stuff and the densities, and it gets a little difficult to follow. It was perfectly clear. I really appreciate the fact that you're able to explain this even to lay people, and not that I'm a lay person, but that anyone could understand it. I appreciate it. Great presentation. Thank you.
I thought you were going to say if you could explain it even to Lynn. That's what I thought you were saying. It's like, wait, really? That's what you're going to say? Which is partly right. Vaughn.
Dave, could you go back to that chart where it shows the new proposed density numbers? Chart here. Okay. So how come for R4 we're not changing the new beginning range to 30 to 43. So just make it so it's all clean. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah, we left it as is because, the overlap, to be clear, just doesn't hurt anything. We did look at that specifically. We talked to the development community, we talked to our housing consultant, and, having an overlap, between designation ranges isn't unusual. And we didn't necessarily want to increase R4 because it decreases opportunities. What we found is that it's more difficult in Clovis, and really in the valley to make those very high density, projects pencil. And so we wanted to continue to, allow projects that were prepared to go in the R4 district to do so as straightforward way as possible.
Okay. So I guess the reality is that hopefully it will allow some potentially, because of that lower threshold, to meet the very high.
Right.
In case they get to a 26 average. So in other words, if they get to a 26 average, when does it become very high or high? In other words, how do you mark it, or how do you count it for what we need to do?
That's a good question. If a project is proposing to develop within that 25 to 30 range, if they're already designated as high, then they're fine. And if they're designated for something else, they can propose to go in either R3 or R4. My guess is that anybody within that 25 to 30 range is going to propose R3 in the high density designation, just to be clear about what their max development looks like.
And then just for fees, is it lower? So we're speaking of that range again. Is it lower for very high? Or does it only depend on the actual units that are being built? You know, the fees, the different ones have different fee calculations.
The fees would be based on the actual number of units,
Okay. So in other words, I can't go 26, and I'll take the very high fees because it's lower overall.
Yeah, so far we haven't identified any of those, but time will tell if some where
now that you just gave me the idea, they might happen.
And then even with this jump, because our EIR accommodated for the 43, no CEQA issues, right? But with regards to water, sewer, I mean, it's only a 5-unit bump, but I just want to get that on the record.
We did. That's a good point. Included in your packet is an addendum to the general plan EIR where we looked at whether the proposed changes were likely to generate new impacts or change the significance of any existing impacts. If we did not identify any of those conditions. By order of magnitude, our current general plan anticipates about 101,000 dwelling units at build-out. And the changes that we've identified most likely could generate about 500 in the most likely scenario. And if you double that, because there's possible redevelopment of some existing R3 lots, that's about 1,000 units, which is a little less than 1% of what we anticipated in the general plan. So we did not identify any environmental conditions that caused concern.
Okay. Thank you very much, Steve.
All right, open the public. Oh, I was going to say one comment. I thought the Planning Commission's comment on the multifamily standards, I think the sweet spot on this is going to be the standards we put on these developments. That's the, right, because I'm thinking about adjacency to single-family neighborhoods. That's where you're going to start getting a little bit tense. If it used to be 35 feet behind my house, now it's 40. I mean, those are the things. So I think those standards are really important. So as we proceed and the general plan comes along and all of that, that will be the way that we still preserve the kinds of communities that we think make sense for Clovis and meet the needs that we have. So that was a really good call out.
I agree.
All right, we'll open the public comment. Anyone in the audience having a comment on the proposed changes here in the planning department? Anyone online? Please? Yeah, do you mind coming back to the microphone? And state your name again, just for fun.
My name is Kay Roddenberry.
Thank you.
Several years ago, and it's not fresh in my mind, I did some research on multi-story, high-density structures in a community. And the research seemed to say that there's no more noise, less privacy, more chaos in the family, more child abuse, more divorce, and more crime. And we know that. Is the state telling you you have to have these high density and there's no way to fight against it? How sad, because we're looking at lives. We're looking at people living in these. Would any of you in this room live in a place with that high density? Would you want to? We need to make it livable for our communities. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, we'll close the public portion of this item. There are two actions. Scott, do you want an individual motion? All right. Looking for two motions for item A first, and then B. That's the way it goes, A, B. You're welcome.
Well, I just wanted to make one statement with regards to what you shared, Mr. Roddenberry. I believe if anyone can do it well, it is Clovis. And I believe that if we are mandated by the state, we are the ones who can make those families even safer because they're being built and surrounded by Clovis families. And so that's something I think that we can pride ourselves on, in that the projects that we bring in, it is the community that we have here in which they will be surrounded. Like I said, when the Housing Authority brought in their project on Alluvial and Willow, that will be the highest sought after Housing Authority project because it has Clovis schools, it has Clovis PD, it has Clovis fire, it has Clovis streets. So in other words, we are going to give them the best of what the state is mandating us to do. And I think the staff is just preparing any developer who wants to come and develop this product a way in which they can still provide something. And so I truly believe in all of you as residents to make that community the best that it'll be for those who will come, even at these higher densities. And so I just wanted to say that. So with that, I would go ahead and make a motion to approve GPA 2023-003, request to amend the density range of the high-density land use designation to increase the maximum density from 25 to 30 units per acre.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Is there any other discussion?
I just want to say that I very much appreciate staff, and I think you guys are put in a rotten position because your job is to make sure that what we do is compliant with the state regulations and state mandates. And you guys do a fantastic job of doing backflips and putting yourself into pretzels to figure out how, as we often say, Clovis can do it best, to take that and make it the best it can possibly be. I also agree that the development standards and that Clovis comes up with are key to making it work. And so I want that to be completely on record. You guys are fantastic. You've done great work on this. For me, my vote on this is going to be a protest of what I believe is Sacramento taking our local control, not allowing us to do things in the way that is best for our community. And I just feel that I need to be on record with that. And so, again, I just want to restate, it has nothing to do with the presentation, with the work you guys do. It's fantastic. But again, specifically just kind of that, stop telling us how to do what we should be doing for our community, and that's where I'm coming from on this today.
Motion second, further discussion. All those in favor of the motion segment, right?
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 absent.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve ordinance amendment 2023-02, request to amend the density range of the R3 zone district to increase the maximum density from 25 to 30 units per acre and to modify the maximum height from the R3 zone district from 35 to 45 feet to accommodate the higher density.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Is there any other discussion? Same?
Same.
Okay. Ditto? Would you like to say it again, or are you good?
Ditto.
Ditto, okay. All right. There's a motion, a second, to consider the ordinance amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
One, the motion carries 3 in favor, 1 no, and 1 absent. All right. Next up are city manager comments.
I have none.
Oh, that's music to our ears. No, I'm kidding. Am I kidding? Council comments. Diane.
I just want to say again how great I thought that the Clovis culinary display and presentation and everything was in the lobby there. So Carrie, Rebecca, whoever was in charge of facilitating that, thank you very much. I look forward to more opportunities to find out about those excellent things that our community offers people. And then I just need to go back to the conversation about this council being an example of hate, because that may be someone's perception. That may be their First Amendment right to say that, but it absolutely does not make it so. And I think that we should all up here be willing to acknowledge and recognize that that is not an accurate assessment. That's not an accurate perspective. And it's really unfortunate that that is what is going to hamper future conversations and future opportunities to communicate if people want to try and turn it into something like that. We've had very respectful conversations from this dais and with people who agree and disagree with us, and that's what it should be. And so I just want to again say that that is a completely inaccurate assessment, and it's unfortunate that it was brought up that way.
Drew?
Len, Diane, and I attended the POW MIA dinner last Tuesday night. It was a very great ceremony, and I was happy to be there. That's all I have.
It was very sweet. Fong?
Yes, I attended the ribbon cutting for Clovis Community College closet, and very beautiful. The students did a great job, and hopefully we can share on the QR code so they can make donations, even staff, because they're looking for sort of higher ready clothing, so in other words, suits, slacks, stuff like that, professional clothing, and that's the sort of what they're looking for, so that way they can prep students who are coming out. And it was actually in the Herndon campus, and I went all the way up to the wrong campus for that ribbon cut. But it was here in Clovis, and so it was great. And I think to return the favor to Dr. Armstrong, if we can always try to attend their events, because she's here a lot of our meetings, and I always feel like, you know, it makes it where you have to make the effort to try to be there for her and her events. The other thing I wanted to say was, Faith in Blue, Beat 3, had their event at Thornburn Park on, I want to say last Thursday. Very well attended. I appreciate PD for coming out and our chaplain, Deanna, for organizing it. I think the next one is coming up. I forgot the date, but then we can try to announce it. But I appreciate the local churches and the communities and the neighborhoods coming out to the park and just having a good time together and seeing police out there and showing our support for them as residents. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Oh. Sure.
I forgot, I wanted to also report out our economic development director and Carrie has been working diligently on sort of the civic engagement for our youth. And I think they have a product that potentially can be ready for us to discuss formally. And I wanted to be able to present to the council to see if we can have that on the agenda, so that way everybody can kind of see it and then weigh in and then make any final tweaks. Because the sooner we can get that on the agenda, the sooner sort of Chad and Carrie can kind of start, you know, I know we put more work for them, but then we can actually get that going. And it's been fabulous. So I wanted to just throw that out to see if we have consensus to put that on the agenda. I don't know, Mayor, if you wanted to add anything else to it.
No, I think that's right. I think I'm just, can we act on this, to put on the agenda with a consensus of 4? Does it have to be on the agenda to get on the agenda?
I'll look at Scott, but what I would be looking for this evening is a motion and a second to add an item to a future agenda to consider the Youth Commission. Scott, is that reasonable?
Okay.
Yes, this is one time where, during council comments, that you can take action on something, and the action is just to simply add something to a future agenda.
So we couldn't make the Youth Commission a thing tonight during
Correct.
council comments, but we could put it on the agenda.
You can take action to place the matter on an agenda for future consideration.
Okay.
Simply 3 votes is needed, so you don't have to have a full 5-member council to do so.
All right, so that was a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to bring back the idea of a youth commission for the city of Clovis. All those anybody in the public, do I open it for public comment too? Anybody in the public want to comment on this? Anybody online? All right, bring it back for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So you will bring it back sometime in October?
Yeah, I'll work with Chad and Carrie. It'll either be October 2nd or October 9th.
All right. And I will be on vacation October 16th, and it's not my turn to talk yet, but so don't bring it back then.
Okay.
Please don't bring it back then. Thank you. Anything else on that? My comments are on Post-it notes, because that's the way this goes. I do want to reinforce the commercial property standards. So under code enforcement, if you can talk about that. I was chatting with a commercial real estate broker, and he just said, well, call me and I'll call the owner. Well, that's good, and there's got to be some other way to get at that. But our commercial centers are as important as our neighborhoods, and my experience at the Peach and Shaw Walmart was horrifying, and no neighborhood deserves that kind of trash. So I don't know how we manage it. I don't know the standards. I don't know how we enforce it, but I do think we can add that to our code enforcement discussion. And then I was going to try to make the next ones anonymous, but you'll know who they're from. Peach and Alluvial Trail Crossing. More lights are needed, apparently. It seems an unsafe kind of crossing, so that was from a constituent. And then a second trail comment is worried that the trees along the trail are dying and not being replaced. And so just with love from our trail proponent in the city of Clovis, and as I told him, he's about to retire, so if you think this is, wait till he retires. So with love to Dr. Kepler, we appreciate his work on the trails. But anyway, it may be that we need to, I mean, I know you're thinking about it, but maybe a concerted effort or some such around trails, or maybe we need to allocate more money to maintain the trails if we can't get it out of regular general fund or whatnot. But we don't want that investment to unravel, and I know you don't. I mean, I know you work on that all the time. And I did reach out to Speaker McCarthy's staff on the state of our post office, because it still is the worst-looking building in the city of Clovis. So I offered if we could help, write a letter to our speaker that I would be happy to, we would bring that back here for discussion, motion, second, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, just trying to kind of stay on the post office, because I know the Clovis Community Foundation offered to volunteer to do it, and then maybe they did a little, and then the post office didn't maintain it, and then it died, and now it's the worst-looking public building in the city of Clovis for sure. So anyway, just that. And finally, how do I really feel about it? It's the worst-looking building. I did participate in a webinar 2 weeks ago called Our Neighborhood Voices, which is that initiative taking shape on a ballot initiative on local control for housing. So it's been going for a while, but it's a slow process, right, as we all know. So anyway, but I did get a note today that they will have a booth at the league meeting this week. So if you are by there, it's called Our Neighborhood Voices, you might just check in. But they have an interesting cross-section, and it's not for cities to abandon their requirements, it's just to give us some control about how we manage them, which I think is what you were speaking to. So anyway, it's an interesting initiative. So keep an eye on that. And then I will be on vacation on October 16th. So, all right. And with that, That concludes our public business. We will move into closed session. There are 2 items printed on the agenda. Scott, will we have any action?
We are not requesting action on either item tonight, so there will be no report.
So there will be no report on any action on items 11 and 12. And with that, we thank you for participating, and we will see you on October 2nd. Thanks, everybody.